When we start a module, I am going to ask you questions. I don't ask you questions because I don't know the information. I ask you questions to stimulate what you know, to get you in the mindset of what we're going to talk about. And I do that, no trickery here involved. I'll be transparent. Adult learning theory says that when adults come to training, a lot of times their natural instinct is to create a new place to store the new information. And as we know about defragging and all of that, separating information makes it harder to retrieve. And so if you create a new place for Windows 10 in your brain, that's great. You can put all the new information in there, but you probably have some Windows 10 information already in your brain. And so I want to link those two together. So putting this new information in the same place. And the trick, supposedly, for doing that is to reference the existing knowledge before. So what's the big deal with Windows 10? It's a service. We're going to talk about that. All right. Microsoft has gone to the planning room and made some changes, as you probably are well aware. And they've decided that they're going to be a services company, not a software company anymore. So Windows 10 is not a software that you buy, even though it is, as a product. It is a service that you enroll in. And Microsoft is guaranteeing that they will continue to provide this service. And some people pundits are saying that Windows 10 is the last operating system Microsoft's going to make. I don't think that's true. I think it will last a long time. And what comes after it will be drastically different. So it's a service, which means they're going to update it. We'll get into all the update stuff with continuous updating. So we're going to go through all the changes here in this chapter. All right. So we have a start button, lower left-hand corner. That was something in Windows 8 that people cried about. They couldn't stand the start screen. And so the tiles that were on the start screen are now in that start menu. It has both a program list and tiles that you can customize. Down on the lower right-hand side, you'll see this little notification box, and this is your Active Action Center. And when you click it up, the Action Center pops up. If you have it collapsed, you'll only see a few buttons. If you don't have it collapsed, you'll see all of these items for your perusal, such as tablet mode, so that you can switch from keyboard mode to tablet mode. Your network icon. And then if you click all settings, you'll get the screen that's up there with a portion of the things that are available here. System, devices, network and internet accounts, time and language, ease of access, updates, all of those things will be available. Very similar content to the control panel in a different format. And many times you can go to the control panel and change it, and you can go here and change it. And they change the same thing, they just change a different interface. So some of the things that are new that we want to identify here. Start screen to start menu improvements I mentioned. Couple of things about that. One, you can customize the tiles that come up on the screen, all right, that are in the border of the programs list, and you can change what you want. You can also click on the start button and then start typing, and the search box will allow you to locate programs by just typing in the first few letters of the program, like I did Notepad a minute ago. You didn't see me do that because it was on my other screen. Cloud integration is a kind of a fuzzy plus. There are some great things that you can do with Windows 10 in the cloud and allow you to connect to the cloud more simply, more consistently through your user account, depending on the cloud services you have enabled. Windows 8.1 had a reset and a refresh in the repair of the computer. And here we will only have this reset feature, right, not the refresh feature. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. But when you do a reset, you're essentially reinstalling the operating system. When you reinstall the operating system over the top of the existing operating system, you replace all those files with new ones. When you do that, what you're going to get is almost fresh install. Your files can be remain, so all your file storage can be kept without losing it, not like a clean wipe install. And your store apps can be remain. So with the same login, the apps that you've purchased from the store will be available to you. But your installation of Office or Adobe Acrobat or whatever software you've decided to install, those programs won't be there because those are installed in your profile in NetScope. Windows to Go feature. With the proper version, you can install Windows to Go. You can create a USB stick or flash drive with a fully featured operating system on it. And that operating system can integrate with the host machine in terms of running the processor and all of that. But it can also have programs installed on it. It can have files on it. It can be just like a desktop, but on a flash drive you carry around with you. I don't think it's gotten very popular response. We've had that since Windows 8, but it doesn't seem to be catching any traction. The idea of somebody walking out with a flash drive saying, can I use your computer to run my computer when I go to your office? I don't think it's working. Client Hyper-V, again, was in Windows 8. We have a fully featured Hyper-V machine available to install. It is short a couple of enterprise features like failover clustering and things like that. But for the most part, Hyper-V is a very, very useful virtualization program, and it's in every enterprise and program. So Windows 10 Education is the equivalent of Windows 10 Enterprise. Support for a lot of devices. I don't think anybody's running HoloLens yet, but it will support it. Windows 10 is available with features that are designed for users to bring their own device. And we'll talk about work data, work folders, the ability to store your work data on your device. We'll also talk about registering your device through a web app proxy server so that you can actually be known in Active Directory, but not an Active Directory joined computer, but your ability to be registered. All right. Down at the bottom, the security enhancements talks about all the things that are added for mobile devices as well as the workstation itself. Biometrics is big. It's taking off pretty well. Windows Hello supports a infrared camera for facial recognition, allows us to be logged in based on that, and there are some white papers out, encouraging network admins to look at this as a possibility. It is more secure than a password. Encryption, we have encryption with BitLocker and BitLocker to go, and certain devices that are rolled up on Microsoft, like the Surface, can be enabled to be encrypted by default. Windows Defender comes with it for our malware detection and removal, a device lockdown. Enables you to restrict the Windows Store app experience. So if you don't want your users going out to the store and downloading apps and logging in with their Microsoft account. And then last bullet there, the virtual secure mode. Running in separate virtualized containers rather than the operating system itself. All right. And these processes are protected by doing that. And we'll not have any exercises on that, but it is a feature that's making it more secure. All right, so last August we got the anniversary update, and let's just talk about updates for a minute. We have feature updates that come along. Microsoft is promising 2 to 3 a year, where increased features are not going to wait for a new version of Windows. They're going to be rolled out to you as soon as they're tested. They're currently rolled out to the beta testers in the fast ring, and so if you want to be in the Windows Preview program, you can get those updates faster. When they have been vetted with the little bits and pieces that are working on everything, then they are going to get rolled out to the hardware in a staged rollout. So home users are going to get them first. You can configure a deferred update, deferring updates for a period of time. We'll get into all of that technical jargon. But otherwise, they're going to go out to those machines that hardware has been tested. So because the activation allows you to identify your hardware, Microsoft can then make a decision based on that hardware whether it's ready for the update. So they talk about the anniversary update version 1607, the number meaning the year 2016, the month is the 7th month. All right. So the creators update, which came out this month, or no, I'm sorry, April, all right, it's going to be 1704. 1703? Did they come out with 3? Third month? Maybe it did. All right. And how do you know what version you're on? The simplest way to do that is to go to a command line. So you go to a command line and you type WinVer, WinVer. All right. And that's going to pull up a box that is over on this screen. Too many boxes here. A box comes out like that. You can see here I'm on version 1607. And then the build number of that particular version. 1703. I don't know why I said 04, but 03. Build 1506 3.138. All right. So the WinVer will always tell you what version you're on. And you can see here, this is Windows 10 Enterprise operating system. And the one I have on the other machine here is Windows 10 Pro. Just trying to immerse myself. So it talks about deployments. The Windows Upgrade Analytics is not completely out yet, I don't believe. It manages upgrades based on the equipment you have and the choices you make. Windows Update Server is supposedly getting refreshed with more control over the update process, choosing between features, and that was the news as of anniversary update. And the news I hear on Creators Update is they're changing again, and they're going to make it harder for you to defer the feature updates. Windows Hello, as I mentioned, the infrared camera, the PIN, the smart card, on the Windows Phone, the retinal scanner. All of these things are used for a more secure way of logging in with real personal information. And so what we're looking at in the business for Hello is an enterprise level functionality, not just a home user walking up, putting their face in front of the camera. But it's infrared to make sure it's not a photograph. Action Center, they mention it's on the right of the calendar down at the bottom there. Really accessible, easy to get to. You can modify the hours in which you're active on the computer, and that will defer updates and not reboot your machine during business hours or whenever your working hours are, if you prefer. Now, that assumes you're not an enterprise client like me, and you know, they just pushed it down on me, even though my active hours were currently going on. Cortana's gotten some updates, much better with speech recognition and being able to wake up when you call her. And as you'll note in the week sometime, she'll wake up and start bringing up websites because she thinks I woke her up. I didn't. So I try and speak softly when I speak the name of Cortana because she will wake up. Your path for your NTFS file system can have longer path characters if you need it to at this point. Significant interface, and they go through it all again. All right. Significant changes here. It says, improved start. Windows 95 introduced the start button. Windows 8 replaced it with a single screen. Windows 10 provides a hybrid. Students can continue to use the start button. Users can continue to use the start button with the Action Center as well. Universal Windows Platform apps. What? What is that? So the idea with Universal Windows Platform apps, in Windows 8, you could install a desktop application like Microsoft Office. And you could also go to the store and download apps, which had tiles. Now they've got it set up with the Universal Platform that you can download apps, desktop apps, and store apps. Same thing. All right. So the apps that we can download is changing. They anticipate that we will be able to download Microsoft Office directly from the store in an app format. But a lot of those things have been updated. The idea with the Universal is that it can be done either way. That the code basically for that application can be a tile app. It could also be an integrated desktop app. It could also be an Android app. Then they talk about the Edge browser. It's the default browser in Windows 10. Administrators are coming up with some creative ways to take it out. Microsoft has not offered anything simple, but administrators have made Windows Explorer, Internet Explorer, the default browser. And with Edge, you can switch to Internet Explorer at any time. So it's pretty easy. I like it. I've come to like it a lot. So here, why would you want it? Easier for users to use than Windows 8. Okay, it's not going to be easier than Windows 7. Although many people have gone from Windows 7 to Windows 10 without any. Always being updated. Critical security and features are continually rolled out to you. The point about device management has to do with Windows Intune, Microsoft Intune, mobile device management, and the ability to manage Windows 10 on tablets and phones along with other mobile systems. But you can remotely manage users' machines like tablets with the cloud-based program of Intune. So here's the deal with the store. If you choose to, you can block users from signing in with their Microsoft account, which is needed in order to purchase items from the store, even if they're free. You have to have an account. So if you don't let them use their account, that's one way to block the store. And the other way is to provide a corporate store. And that can be done by installing the store feature as a business store. And then you put the things in the store that you want your users to have access to. And you don't give them access to Candy Crush. And the free upgrade to Windows 10 was and no longer is. And it was only for home users, not for enterprise users. You could upgrade your home version to the newest version of Windows 10. And so I've done that. I've also done an upgrade in place here on this machine with the enterprise version. It wasn't a free version, it was the download version. If you weren't aware of it, if somebody went to upgrade to Windows 10 and had problems, there was a feature that said you could roll back to the previous version, and so you could roll back to Windows 7 at any time. Well, anytime in the first 30 days. And when that happened, your activation of Windows 10 was completed, so you still have a free version available to you. And so you could actually format the machine and get the media and install Windows 10, and it would activate automatically as a free version, which is on my right machine. I upgraded and it was having a lot of trouble. It's a very old Acer laptop. So I rolled it back to Windows 7 just to see how it worked, and it's been working just fine. And I need to take the time to, again, replace the spinning hard drive, which is old, with a new solid-state drive, and then do a clean install, and it should activate free because it's already got the registration information. All right, so everybody sort of mentioned Windows 10 coming to their environment soon. I think the experience for most administrators has been pretty positive with Windows 10. There are some fluky things that have happened. Sean, sounds like you've had some experience that's a little bit unusual, and you know, there's solutions. Sometimes they're long to come out, but most things are getting solved as this rollout occurs. Very common in the business environment for clean installs, not upgrades, and so we see that fairly common. And I've been very pleased with the number of companies that have been jumping on Windows 10. All right, let's talk about BYOD, bring your own device features, and what that means to us. Work folders I mentioned. All right, work folders was available in Windows 8.1. It allows you to connect to a 2012 server or a 2016 server, and a storage location that is set up for you, much like a map drive for your home directory. But in this case, it's going to be your work folders connection. And when you install work folders on your office computer, that computer then connects to the web server, which is the file server with a web interface, connects to that server, and whatever storage you put in there will be synchronized between the two. Once you've done that, you can also take your iOS phone or your iPad or a Windows phone or a Windows tablet and install work folders on that device. It does not have to be domain joined. So that device can have work folders, and the improvement over offline files is that those work folders now will synchronize every 10 minutes whenever you're on the internet. They synchronize with the server. All right, so you make a change at your desk on your desktop, you store it in network folders. Your desktop will synchronize with the file server. You go on the road, you open up your iPad, you go to work folders, there's your document. As soon as it comes online, it should synchronize. If not, you can force the synchronization and have that data there. But every 10 minutes is a huge improvement. Device registration was previously called Workplace Join in Windows 8.1. What it means is that you're identifying a device to Active Directory. All right. And that device registration then is going to go through Federated Services. Through Federated Services, and it will get there through the web app proxy server as well, which means that when you want to connect to the corporate domain for a resource. All right. So let's say that I have an iPad. It's my personal iPad. I put work folders on it. It works fine. But sometimes I need to get to an application that's running on a server internally. And so I need to have my device connect to that server. So I can do this device registration where it includes my login to the domain and my credentials and a certificate placed on the device. Now when I access the web app proxy server, it's like multi-factor authentication. It's my login plus the device certificate. Those two together give me an identity that allows me in. If you take my iPad with your credentials, you won't be able to get in. All right. And if I take your iPad and use my credentials, I won't be able to get in. The certificate has to be on there for both. The certificate based on my credential. So if you want to use my iPad, you'd have to use your credential and get a new certificate for your credential to register. So let me ask a question of everybody this time, just because I need to know. I don't need to know. I'm curious. There's a couple of ways that you can support users with their devices. One is they buy their own device, and you allow them to use it to connect to resources in the domain, such as email and work folders and things like that. And some companies provide the device, the phone, to the users. So where you work currently, do they provide the phone to users and allow them to connect to resources with that phone, or do they configure the user's personal phone? So work phone or personal phone? Sean, do your users get a stipend for that?
Yeah, there's a reimbursement plan.
A lot of legal stuff going on about it right now, and it's very interesting that some companies have gone back. Wow, that's pretty interesting. Either choice. Stage agency stuff. Yeah. Sometimes that becomes a big political football about who's responsible for it. So when I'm talking about, there's some lawsuits about people who have a couple of lawsuits that caught my eye. Was one where somebody had their phone reset to factory when they misplaced it, and they found it again, but they didn't have any of their personal stuff on it anymore. And they were mad because they said, it's my phone. I pay for it. I get no stipend. I get no reimbursement. I'm required by the company to have it, but I paid for it, so they don't have the right to do that. And then there's another one where there was a policy that stated if you lose your phone, you must notify the IT department within 24 hours. If there are consequences if you don't. And somebody didn't do that because they didn't want to lose their personal information, and they thought they could recover the phone. Left it on the train or something and wanted to go back to the train conductor and get it. Anyway, so then they notified the company after about 48 hours or longer, and the company walked them out the door, and that was the end of their job. And the lawsuit was again saying, this was my personal device, and I had personal stuff on it. I didn't want it reset. I thought I could find it, and so that's pending. And then the third lawsuit I read was one where a girl was taking a job, and the requirement of the job was that the employee was to provide their own blankety-blank smartphone, whatever model or brand, a specific type of phone that they would have to pay the monthly fee on, they would have to purchase outright on their own, and the company, would enable the process of connecting to resources, but it was a stipulation of the employment. And so she took the job, she started to work, and she never got a phone. And she said, if I'm going to buy a phone, I'm going to buy what I want with my money, and I'd be willing to do that. But to go out and buy an expensive smartphone on my money just to have this job doesn't seem like it's legally fair. And so she's gone to court on that one, and I haven't seen the result of that one either. They take a long time. These precedent-setting lawsuits get delayed and delayed because they know that, once a judge rules on it, there's no turning back. There's a winner and a loser. So it's an interesting dilemma. Years ago, I remember my company providing me with a phone, and the IT guys had it all set up, and I had that phone, and I had my own phone. I had two, and I carried two. And the company phone wasn't a personal phone. Then I got a stipend and said, okay, here, if you will get a phone that can get your email, so we can email you and call you during working hours and stuff. We'll pay you so much a month. I'm like, okay, fine. And then, we're not going to do that anymore. Right after I bought an expensive phone. So I get no reimbursement. I give you my cell phone, and it's on my dime. I pay for it. All right. All right, let's get into the navigation here and look at the interface again. Sign-in screen. Again, in this sign-in screen, the default is the last logged on user. You have to go down lower left and click Other User to put in somebody else. Now, with all our lab machines, the format is always to put the domain /administrator because the local administrator is disabled. Or it's locked out. Disabled. And so if you were to just put in administrator, it's going to say, no login available. This account has been disabled. And you're like, what? So every time, once in a while, people in labs don't follow the directions. If you need to get into the local account, it's the machine name /admin. So you go to other user, type in the name of that virtual machine /admin. Same password, and you would get in. You do have the power button down here on this screen, so you can reboot. All right. And then when you put in the password, you got to click that little arrow. You guys know. So, all right. Start screen. Programs on the left listed alphabetically. And when you click on those programs, they'll open up. On the right-hand side of the tiles, you can rearrange the tiles any way you like. and pull it up here in a second so I can demo. I can demo on my machine, but you don't see that screen all the time. So let's see here, go over here. So go back to CL1, go Control Delete, paste username, peek to make sure, click yes. Oh, yeah. So from our right-click menu, we have the option here to sign out. And then you can just click on this screen to get to the logon screen. Again, you have the power options here, shut down or restart. Other user says, how do I sign into another account? You know, you go down here, you could see the name of the machine, and then I can go in here and use the same password and log in locally. All right. So make use of this right-click as much as you can. Most of the things we're going to want to do are probably in here. All right, it's a very good list. The Cortana search box here. Obviously, you don't have a microphone, so you can't talk to her. You know, you can do something like Edge and open up the Edge browser, things like that. And now you see down here your search, find results on the web, find results in music, results in videos. Let's search for videos here. I don't know if we're connected or not. Okay. So this is just a proprietary screen that comes with something called Big Info. So that's why we have this ugly black and machine name, username. Always look in there to see who you're logged in as and the version of operating system we have here. And again, you know, I can go into the lab machine here and do my WinVer and see that I'm on the 1607 build, anniversary update, and this is the enterprise version. Okay. Oh, I know what I want to show you. Finally came to me. If you click on the start screen or the start menu here, what you'll see here are groups of alphabetical characters. If you click on the letter, you get the full alphabet. This is something on my Windows phone that I use all the time. In my contacts, I do that. And so if I go in here and I see I want to get to something that starts with Windows, all right, now I can go down here and find Windows System, Windows Ease of Access, Windows Administrative Tools, okay. But it's easier to sometimes navigate by just clicking on the letters rather than scrolling. All right. Otherwise, you're scrolling. All right. If you haven't played with 3D Builder, you may want to like that. You know, you can go in here and play around with these things and enhance them. Apparently it got updated in the creators update. I haven't played with it over there yet. Settings window here, allowing you to click on this and get into settings. The tools can be pinned down here. If there's anything you need, you can pin it to the taskbar. Explorer is the default. I mean, Edge is the default browser, and you can pin the Internet Explorer down there as well. In the lab machines, because we're leaving them and going into new ones all the time, doesn't make, you're not going to make changes that stick. What else can I show you here? Adding tiles. So if I want, calculator's not on there. If I want the calculator up on the screen there, I can pin it to the start screen, and then I can drag it over here. You can drag things around here. Great app is on its way. I don't know what it is. And then you can get rid of things. All right, so you can unpin Xbox, unpin Groove Music, unpin Coming Soon, Coming Soon, Coming Soon. All right. And then you can rearrange tiles and put them right. I try to keep this down to a minimum of the things that I use a lot, but you'll notice in a minute later when you see my taskbar, I have most of the tools I want pinned to my taskbar, like Zoom, Skype, the snipping tool, things that I use all the time. I pin them to my taskbar. You can move the taskbar anywhere you want. So you can have it over on the right or on the left. And so then if you need something like the Edge browser, you can just click on it and get it in from there. All right. I'm not going to spend time. You guys have used Windows 10, and I think you'll find that customizing will give you some experience if you haven't done it. Pretty easy to do. If you want to pin it to the taskbar, the More button will give you pin to the taskbar. So play around with it in your lab this afternoon. Take your time. See what kind of things you can mess with. The tiles all have different sizes, small, medium, wide, and large. And, live tiles for most of the things will give you updates on information. And news and so on. You can group them and put titles on them. So this is Office programs in this demo here, and you can name that Office. And these are the Office programs that are there. You can move that whole group around. All right. So that kind of wraps up the intro to Windows 10. If you want to do that. All right, so now that I got you thinking about installing Windows 10, let's talk about requirements, all right, and the additions that are available. So additions that are available to us, for us, by us, those additions have some different features available. And so, depending on the edition you choose, certain things may or may not be available to your enterprise customers. All right, so there's Windows 10 Home, available to everybody. Windows 10 Pro, small and medium businesses, advanced users, enterprise, large enterprises. Windows 10 Enterprise LTSB, long-term servicing branch. Have to be volume licensing for enterprise versions. And the installation is a separate piece of media. Doesn't come with choices in the regular install. Long-term servicing branch, as we'll talk about later, is for businesses who are installing this system on a production machine, a factory machine, a point of sale machine, something in which the features are not important part of that installation. And you don't have to install the upgrades. So in most Enterprise and Pro machines, you have a certain period of time to install the update features, or you will not get support from Microsoft. It's a big deal. And the reason they do that is because they build on the previous features. So the next version comes out with a build on the previous feature. If you don't have it, then they're going to have problems with your machine. You can't install that one either. So if you don't want the Cortana, you don't want the Edge browser, you don't want a lot of the end user kind of features, then the long-term servicing branch will give you Windows 10 and all the benefits of Windows 10, and you don't have to upgrade the features to feature updates for 10 years. All right. And you're still supported. You still get critical updates. You still get security updates, but no feature updates for 10 years are needed. And for many, that's what they want. I had a guy in class a few weeks ago that was running the long-term servicing branch on his laptop because he didn't want any of that stuff. He was very happy with it. I have it installed in a virtual machine in my Hyper-V server, and works just fine. I'm not going to be using Cortana anytime soon on that machine. There is an education version with volume licensing. The education, as I said, is an enterprise level version of Windows 10 made specifically for education markets and their licensing. There is a new version now listed here called Windows 10 Windows 10 Pro for Education, or Windows 10 Education Pro, maybe. It's comparable to the Pro version of Windows that we have. All right. So the standard education version is Enterprise, although it doesn't say it. And the Pro version is Pro with slightly less features. There's a mobile version for tablets and smartphones. And there is now a mobile enterprise version for small phones and tablets as well. All right, so you can get a mobile enterprise version. Lots of choices. What's right for you? Then there's IoT, Internet of Things. And when we talk about the IoT, we're talking about webcams. We're talking about refrigerators. We're talking about thermostats. We're talking about all kinds of little devices that need an operating system. All right. And those IoT devices come in different flavors as well. So we've got the core version for robots, toy cars, and sensors. Enterprise, suitable for ATMs and individual robotics, and mobile, suitable for handheld terminals and automobiles. And they're begging to get out of going detail on that for this course. But no, they're there. So here's the deal. All these versions of Windows 10 on all these different kinds of devices. And Microsoft is committing to providing the same platform as a service, not a software package. It takes a while to grasp what that means, but if you're providing a service, you have to keep it running. You have to keep it updated. It's not, here's your software, go and enjoy, fine, bye, call our help desk. All right? It's a much bigger commitment. And that's why all these devices are being listed. So for most of us, I think enterprise is the way to go. There may be some situations in which you want to use professional, and that is also very robust and has lots of features. But it does not have the Windows To Go creator. It does not have App Locker. Does not have branch cache, App-V, and user experience virtualization. These are high-end things that are available through the enterprise version. Just it's a matter of looking at your environment and what's running. And you may run enterprise in some and pro in others. Obviously, the licensing cost is different and more expensive for enterprise. Minimum requirements, as you all know because you've been in the field a while, minimums are just to laugh at. Here they're talking about a gig of RAM as a minimum amount. Can't even imagine running anything on a gig of RAM. Not that I'm, a high-end developer or anything, but I do have a lot of programs running on this machine. So I have 12 gig of RAM on this machine, and I use about half of it. And then any of the biometric things, you obviously have to have feature-specific biometric tools included. So, a standard webcam won't do Windows Hello. It has to be infrared. Secure boot requires unified firmware, unified extensible firmware interface, unified experience. I always get that screwed up. BitLocker requires a TPM chip or USB flash drive. Windows to Go requires a very specific level of hard drive, 32 gig or bigger, and it has to have a couple of features in it. You can't just buy any flash drive. There's certain ones that are certified for Windows to Go that you can create, and they're kind of expensive. Iron Key makes one. You're talking $100-something bucks for one of those. They're not cheap. All right, how do we deploy it? They give us the quadrant here. We can deploy it, what they call high touch, low touch, zero touch. Often the low touch is called light touch. So high touch, you take the DVD, you run the program, you put it in the slot, you install it from the DVD, you answer all the questions, you click on everything that needs to be done. A low touch or light touch, you can set up a deployment server with the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit and set up an image on that toolkit, build that image, and PXE boot, pre-executable boot a machine that will find the PXE server and install the operating system. It requires very little, perhaps an install menu, and you need to choose full installation or a light installation or something like that, but everything is part of that. Zero touch is done with Config Manager, System Center Configuration Manager, deploys an agent and deploys the operating system based on that agent's request. Very similar process that we have in many instances. So most companies are using Config Manager. Now they get the full suite with licensing in the 2012 version, and they get Operations Manager, Virtual Machine Manager, and all the tools that come with that suite for the same license. Really streamlining things. And we do have a deployment class for deploying Windows 10, a specific class that goes through all these options. If you were new and had never really done a deployment, you're still doing a high-touch deployment, and you want to look at all the options. The deployment class goes from beginning to end. It does everything from, creating images and deploying images with System Center and everything. Gives you the whole 9 yards, so to speak. ICD is new, the Image Configuration Designer. And it is what it says. It's a designer. So the story with Image Configuration Designer that I made up here is you create a configuration of Windows 10. All right. Very much like an answer file, but it's a configuration package for your corporate image. Some manufacturers, the OEMs, might create a configuration image. And then you install the basic operating system of Windows 10 and you run the configuration image on it, and pretty soon it becomes identical to your corporate image. So someone on the road that loses a computer, needs one immediately, you can't get one to them quick enough, you tell them, go to Best Buy, buy a Windows 10 laptop. Get a decent one, don't get a piece of junk. Well, you know, is it going to have the right Windows on it? Don't worry about it. You connected them remotely, you get them set up, you deliver this package to them, and this package can upgrade a Windows Home computer, Windows 10 Home, to an enterprise version with your enterprise image, your enterprise software, everything you want, except the operating system. Now, you can use it in deployment of an operating system too, but the idea is that it's the configuration after the fact that this image is for. So deployment uses several tools, and many of these I'm sure are familiar to you. The Application Compatibility Toolkit allows you to run an application, and when it doesn't work with the operating system that you're installing, it'll stop and you can fix it. So let's say you have an old application that wants to write to the registry, and that's just the way it's always been done. Well, since Windows 7, we haven't been, Windows 7 and above, we haven't been able to write to the Vista and above, I should say. We haven't been able to write to the registry. So we have to go in and shim the application. So we can create a shim, like you shim up a window. We create a shim that says, here's a fake registry key that you can write to. And the application writes to this registry key. It's not really the registry, but it thinks it is. We kind of fool it. You got an application that needs to be run as an administrator, as they have to have administrative rights. And the UAC prompt comes up. Well, what are you going to do? You can shim the application to identify the application itself as an administrator. So when it runs with administrative privilege. No prompting. So it's a great kit, the toolkit, and a lot of tools in there to fix things. The Disk Image Servicing Manager replaces the ImageX. Replaces ImageX that we used to use for capturing and deploying images. All right, DISM can do the same thing. Plus, we can go into the image after the fact and insert some new drivers or updates or things like that. We can use that Disk Image Servicing Management tool to do all of that. The System Image Manager, SIM, it's a graphical tool to create an answer file. It is very complex. There is a lot of choices, thousands of choices. It can create an answer file that can do almost anything, but it does take some time to learn the interface and to manipulate that interface. It's not for the faint of heart. Windows pre-executable installation, or Windows pre-installation, as Luke calls it, gives us an operating system to interact with. And so we can boot up to a minimal Windows 10 operating system and run tools and options from there. All right. The designer tool to create that custom images I talked about, and the user state migration tool, all right, allows us to copy the user settings from their profile up to a network share and then deliver those settings using load state. You can load those settings back into a new installation of Windows. So the installation process is fairly simple. There's not a lot of questions here. We see the language screen. We click Next. We get the Install Now screen, and later we'll talk about the repair function. And we can go down here and choose the repair option instead and get several new repair options. But otherwise, we click Install Now. It starts the setup, gives you a terms acceptance, gives you the upgrade or custom install, and most of the time we're going to be doing a custom install. It'll allocate space in the virtual machine. There's a default setting in there, and we can use that or we can change it. If you're working with it manually, you can go in and delete a partition and create a new partition of a different size and format it and do all of that. And you can also load drivers that are needed. You get the copying file screen. You get the registration screen here that basically says Express settings are going to take care of configuring location, history, find my device, advertising ID, blah, blah, blah. You can say customize and go through them one by one. Who's going to use the PC? Get the name of that user that you want. If it's a local machine, or you're just creating a local account. Cortana can be configured from here or not. All right, we'll let that start up. Activation, as you know, confirms the product and product key status. There's a retail, OEM, and Microsoft Volume licensing activation. If you change anything about the hardware, you may need to reactivate it. There's a command line tool, Software Licensing Manager executable, or SLMGR. I call it Sling Manager. So I like Sling Blade a lot. SLMGR can be used to give you an extension of your temporary activation. You can activate up to 5 times before you provide your licensing. So just a quick walkthrough of installation here. If you're going to install, there is this blank machine, all right, and there is a media drop-down here. And this is where you will get your eval ISO, and that will allow you, in this case, to start this machine and step through the install process, following the lab instructions as you go. Get the language screen, get the install screen, or the repair screen, as I told you before. All right, you can do troubleshooting and do all of these choices. And I'll just turn it off. Otherwise, you can just go through the install. And I'm sure you guys will have no problem with that. All the upgrade is listed here. And, you know, if you're using media to upgrade instead of choosing custom, you have to make sure the right version is upgrading. All right. So all the Windows 8 here, direct upgrade with the media. All right. Windows Update will give you the direct upgrade on 8.1. The other one does not have that. In other words, you're not going to get it in your feature updates like most people did for Windows 10. You can upgrade Windows 8 to Windows 10, but you have to use media again. Windows RT is not supported. Windows 7 Service Pack 1, you can do a direct upgrade to that. And the RTM version of Windows 7, you'd have to use media. It says it will be free for all non-enterprise editions for the first year, and that has eclipsed, thus the anniversary edition. So we won't talk about free updates. Except to say if somebody did it and rolled it back, they can still do it. All right. How to get excited about this. All right. So in the enterprise, I can only imagine a few instances where people are going to upgrade a Windows 7 machine to Windows 10. All right. I think by and large, every administrator is going to want to probably have new hardware But even at the best, even if the hardware is fairly new, probably do a clean install. Wipe, format the hard drive, and do a clean install. So you don't have any leftovers from the old one. Windows as a Service is leaning hard on this and saying, oh yeah, if everything's working fine, you can upgrade right in place. Yeah, but everything is never working fine. Who knows how many bots are down, buried inside that computer? It's really hard to genuinely say an upgrade is the best path. Migrating is taking the source and destination computer, getting the user state off of it, formatting it, and then reinstalling the new operating system and restoring the user data. That is very common. That's how most companies are going to do that. Although I did go to one company to help with a rollout years ago, and they were basically taking the user's laptop and saying, we're going to provide you with a new computer. And they would take the laptop, get the data off of it, put the data on another laptop, give them the laptop, and then the original laptop would be given to the next person. So they were recycling them. Not everybody was happy about getting Joe's old used computer. Can't even talk about the... Keep the user settings, preserves all the apps, does not require storage for migration files, simpler setup, rollbacks available. Yeah, but you get a lot of junk. Disadvantages of migration. Got to have the USMT tool, no big deal, it's free. Have to reinstall applications, yes. Requires storage space for the settings. And user productivity if they're down, if they're not able to use their computer. All right. So backup is in most cases all about the user settings, what's included in the user settings in their profile, and you may want to include files that are there that are not in their profile. There may be certificates, very important to keep those certificates that will not be part of the standard collection of data. So make sure you know what you need, and in most cases administrators do. Back up everything, install a fresh version of Windows 10, install the updates for Windows 10, all the applications the user needs, and then restore that backup. All right. Going pretty quickly through this, but I got one more here. Migration. USMT tool. So let me ask, how many of you are familiar with the user state migration tool? Say yes. Got a yes and a no. That's enough to say I need to talk more. Separates users' file settings and environment from the settings of the specific Windows operating system. Goes into the ntuser.dat profile, gets the user data, the application data, the registry settings, user settings. All right. Scriptable command line tool that will run. All right, so you can run this. I had some guys at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. This was a number of years ago. They were using Ghost for their, that's how long ago. They were using Ghost for their imaging. And they said, we have scan state run every time the user logs in. It's a login script. And it saves it up to a server on the network that their profile is in. So every change they make is recorded every day in the scan state. Then as part of their Ghost imaging process, they had a script that ran after the machine was up and running. It would run load state and bring all the user stuff back to the machine automatically. They didn't have to do anything. I was amazed. It was very creative. I never heard anybody else do that. Most people know how to run it and they script it, but they do it at the time of, okay, now I'm going to take everything off your machine. what the beauty they had was that they had the scan state run every day, so that they had to re-image somebody's machine. They didn't have to worry about copying anything off. They could just run the image. Boom, here it is. So what we're going to do, I'm not sure how far we do it in the lab here. To do it in the server class as well. Yeah. So we're going to use the MIG user, migrate user XML file, the and the MIG app config file, when we run this. But those are XML files that you can go in and you can configure what settings to keep and what settings not to keep. You can pick and choose. You don't want their music, you don't have to have their music. All right. Well, once you have those files, you run a command line with switches for the MIG app, MIG user, and so on. And they will then determine what gets copied up and what gets copied down. So when I did a rollout for this client with XP, I was hired to come in and help with the rollout, and they were doing a discovery of the laptop. They were doing the take Joe's laptop and give it to Sally kind of thing, and so what they would do is they would make a ghost image of the laptop, all right, and then they would store that image in the new laptop, so that if the new operating system and everything didn't work, they could call up the ghost image of the old laptop, and the user could have that until they figured out the problem. But as part of their resetting the PC, they would go in and do a screenshot of the start menu as a way of finding out what programs were being run by that user, which I thought was a little bit fuzzy. Just because it's on the start menu doesn't mean they use it. And sometimes there was multiple versions of software, and they would reinstall both. And I was like, well, wait a minute, what if they don't use that? Well, it's just quicker this way. Anyway, so we're going to do a lab where you're going to look at the upgrade facts and features here, and then you're going to use the migration tool to do the migration of the user settings. If you've ever used the File and Settings Transfer Wizard, FAST, that was the old version. The newer version was the Windows Easy Transfer. It was an end-user graphic way of taking all the settings from your computer and storing them in a file on another computer. And so you would run that, you would make that collection of stuff available, go to the new computer, and run that on the new computer and deliver all of that. Or, sometimes they use a crossover cable to do it. All right. So that's as much as I can get through to you today. I was hoping we'd get done by 11:30, and we did. So